Hello there and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Now, ACA for the last 35 years has been the voice of Americans overseas, helping individuals with such topics as Social Security, Medicare and taxation. Here with me to talk about that last subject in more detail is Jackie Bugnion. Jackie, thank you very much for coming in today.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
No problem. Now, we're talking about taxation. I know you've been in the studio with us before, you've discussed RBT in a little bit, but just for a reminder for our viewers, can you tell us a little bit more detail about what this is and how it's affecting Americans?
Well, RBT stands for Residence-Based Taxation, and we have made a proposal for this to Congress. This is a proposal which says that we simply want the United States to tax the way the rest of the world taxes individuals, and that means to tax only those people resident in the United States. Today, the United States taxes on citizenship-based taxation, which means that Americans residing overseas have double reporting, double taxation, and severe penalties and many other consequences.
Now, in terms of developments with this subject in Washington, for example, in particular, what have been the recent trends? Would you say what's been happening over there?
Well, the Ways and Means Committee is very active right now in drafting tax reform. In fact, we hope that a draft will come out in September. No one knows for sure, but we're hoping. We submitted our RBT proposal. Over 100 people supported this. The Joint Committee of Taxation highlighted it in their summary report. And then very recently, the Senate Finance Committee came out with a report on competitiveness and recommended residence-based taxation.
Now, how do ACA react to these issues then, and how do you go about promoting RBT?
Well, we're doing everything we can. We have just produced a video which will hopefully be on our website in the next few days on RBT. It's a fun video, it's animated. It explains the fundamental issue that's involved. And it basically concludes with the fact that RBT is really a win-win solution for the United States. It should bring in as much or probably more revenue than the current system. It will certainly reduce costs for the IRS administration. And third of all, and I should expand on this point, it's going to increase the competitiveness of Americans overseas. And the reason is that today, because of citizenship-based taxation, U.S. corporations hesitate greatly to send Americans overseas because they cost twice as much for the corporation than hiring a foreigner. And today there are probably only around 10,000. That's a guess, but we no longer have the statistics of the Commerce Department. They stopped making the statistics when it had dropped to 20,000. Only about 10,000, I would guess, individuals working overseas for American corporations. This is peanuts. And today we're working in a global economy, and there is nobody who is better to represent Americans overseas than to have Americans.
Now, in terms, I understand the ACA is the voice of the American citizens, but with that in mind, what should people do? How do they get on board with these different things, and how do they find out more information about ACA and how they can advantage themselves from the different work that you're doing? Well,
first of all, I would highly recommend that people go to our website, which is very easy to remember. It's americansabroad.org. Second of all, if you really feel these issues concern you, become a member, donate to ACA to reinforce our position in Washington, D.C. We now have our executive director in Washington, D.C. We're going to build up a Washington office, and this is going to be very important because that's really where the action takes place. And the advantage of becoming a member is that you receive a monthly news update from ACA, which really is a top-line quality summary of all of the legislative movements and activities going on that affect Americans overseas. Our goal really is to inform Americans overseas of their situation, of their obligations, and to try and change the laws in the United States.
That's what I was going to touch on. I mentioned earlier that it's 35 years of ACA. So in terms of vision for the future, or where do you see the kind of next goals coming from? What have you got in store?
Well, our goals are basically always remain the same. We have to really improve this tax situation because unfortunately the community is being, I don't think it's too strong to say, destroyed today by the combination of the tax, the FATCA reporting, the FBAR reporting. Americans overseas cannot get jobs. They cannot get bank accounts. Some of them are getting divorced from foreign spouses. The situation is really dramatic. So this issue will remain a very big issue. Linked to that is the banking issue, the fact that Americans really have to have access to foreign financial institutions. And so we're working also on the FATCA legislation to see if this can be modified to find a solution. In addition, there are issues that are linked to voting. Unfortunately, just yesterday, the Supreme Court made a major decision which opened up the possibility for states to modify substantially their voting regulations. And we fear that this may impact Americans overseas, because there's always a tension between who has the right to determine voting rights, the state or the federal level. And right now we come under a federal law, but if the states can take the upper hand, they may just find ways to cut out the vote of Americans overseas. This is a serious concern for us.
Certainly. A lot of hot topics there and a lot of insight that you've shared with us. Thank you so much, Jackie, for coming in and sharing your perspectives today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Well, that's all from Jackie and myself for the moment. Please do click back to the website for hourly updates and exclusive interviews. Goodbye for now.